And welcome back, and a familiar face joining us here on Talk of the Town right now, as with WILDD, Ervin Carpenter is here, although the thing that's unfamiliar is you're usually not solo. Usually you got Jessica with you, and
yes.
Graciously has a day off today. Huh?
Yes, Jessica is having a wonderful day off.
Good for her. So we'll talk to you then, and I'm sure that we'll do just fine without her, though I'm sure everyone will miss Jessica a little bit. So so talk to us a little bit, and everything that we've talked about in the past. We've talked about learning disabilities and how you guys, and help and teach them, but especially dyslexia. And so, if you could, give us like a simple definition, if you will, of dyslexia.
The simple definition of dyslexia is two Greek terms put together to explain someone who has average or above average intelligence, but just for some reason can't learn to read and spell, do mathematics. So the simple definition is dys, meaning difficulty, lexia, meaning learning or reading. So it's difficulty with learning.
I think most people have the assumption or just think like dyslexia means that if I see a number as 901, you see it as 109. That's not what it means?
Well, it's not a visual thing.
Okay.
It is a processing. So as a dyslexic, I see everything the same way you do. It's just that when I process it in spelling or in reading, it'll sometimes come out reversed.
Okay. I think a lot of people too might be confused. How many people, approximately in the United States might have dyslexia?
Well, about 20%.
Oh wow, 1 in 5.
1 in 5.
Wow.
And those are diagnosed.
Okay.
So we have a set of baby boomers from 1946 to 1964 that were never identified. So we have a lot of people out there that struggle with learning.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the corrective way to deal with it, if they couldn't read right, or they didn't quite understand it, if they were in Catholic school with the nuns, it'd be a whack on the
yeah,
right. Hey, read better, wham!
I've heard those stories.
Yeah, so a lot of people might not know this too. Ervin, you're dyslexic.
I am.
So if you could talk about a little bit, because you grew up in that baby boomer time then.
Yes.
So what was it like growing up with dyslexia?
Well, I was born in 1949. So by the time I hit school, I had to spend 2 years in first grade because I just wasn't catching on to the reading, spelling thing. And so they held me back. And so as I grew and went through the Madison School District, I just had a horrible time learning. And back then, of course, they had corporal punishment. So
right, yeah.
I got spanked quite a few times for just being obstinate.
I joked about it, but I mean seriously, that's how it was.
It was.
Yeah.
It was, and they saw me as being obstinate, not trying, lazy. Those were the things that they told my parents. My parents believed it, of course.
Right.
Everybody can learn to read. Why don't you? Why don't you try harder? And so as I went through school, it was a horror for me. I dropped out at age 16, which back then you could. In 1966 is when I dropped out. And I left home, and I lived on my own for a year before I went into the military at age 17. But I had spent my life up till I was 32 years old when I finally went to the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh after I retired from the military. And there I found that I worked really, really hard to fail once again, in that institution. So my DVR counselor, or my VA counselor, suggested that I worked so hard to fail, maybe I had a learning disability. Now that was the first time I've heard that.
Right.
So he sent me for testing with Dr. Galika at UW-Oshkosh. And 2 weeks later I found out I did have a learning disability, and that I wasn't reading above the 3rd grade level. So to be in college, being an adult, 32 years old, not being able to read or spell, you could imagine how I felt.
Yeah.
But there was a program at that university. I was lucky. They sent me to Dr. Robert T. Nash, and he told me that I had dyslexia, and he said, I can teach you how to read, but I'm going to teach you a different way. Instead of whole language, I'm going to teach you phonemic awareness, and I'm going to teach you how to take the sound structure of our language and put it into reading and spelling.
And this is something I'm sure that you can find out more about at WILDD, and hopefully you don't have to go through that same kind of frustration and stuff that you went through. So,
Absolutely.
That's a great story. Thank you so much
You bet.
for being here. We'll have more right after this.